So this is a bit of a follow-up on the report that I did recently about the shipments of the Nintendo Switch 2 and how there are some retailers apparently that have gotten theirs already at this point, or there are some retailers or they're shipping out to the US. And there's definitely a lot of little puzzle pieces that are starting to fall into place if you start putting together everything. There was a fantastic post by ThunderStash Gaming. He's one of the co-hosts of the Nintendo Byte podcast over there with Nintendo Prime, so check out the podcast when you guys get an opportunity. But I saw this on his Twitter page and I wanted to kind of give my thoughts on what he had to say. And it seems like the Nintendo Switch 2 could be launching far sooner than what people are expecting, but I wanted to also give some of my perspective on what he had to say. So shout outs to ThunderStash. I'll leave a link to his Twitter post in the description below, but I will be going through it and once again adding in my own thoughts and opinions. So here's what he had to say starting out. The more pieces we put together, the clearer the picture becomes. May 15th is shaping up to be the perfect launch date for the Nintendo Switch 2. And the best part, this isn't just speculation, no insider sources, no leaks, just logic, patterns, and solid research from the community. Let's break it all down. I've been saying this for months on the Nintendo Byte podcast, or the Nintendo Byte podcast, I should say. I believe Nintendo would be wise to go for a much shorter gap between their full reveal and the launch. Just look at the iPhone 16. Apple unveiled it on September 9th, 2024, and had it in consumers' hands by September 20th. We live in an instant gratification society where people want things now, not months later. Nintendo already confirmed months in advance the date for the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd, so why wait months again to launch Switch 2? They need to strike while the hype is at its peak. Next up, Doom the Dark Ages drops on May 15th, and history tells us there's a strong chance it could be a Nintendo Switch 2 launch title. Nintendo platforms have a long history with Doom, from the red cartridge on the Super Nintendo to Doom 64 and even Doom Eternal on the Nintendo Switch, and of course Doom 2016. Every major Doom release is currently available on the Nintendo Switch, and I've said it many times before the podcast, I expect Microsoft to be Nintendo's biggest third-party publisher on Switch 2. Next up here, Nintendo Switch 2 Experience event timing and strategic break. The Nintendo Switch 2 Experience event runs from April 4th to May 11th across major Switch 2 launch regions, US, Canada, Japan, UK, and Australia, before taking a 20-day break, resuming on May 31st in Seoul, a region historically excluded from Nintendo's initial console launches. The Switch 1 launched there 9 months later in December 2017. This gap strongly suggests Nintendo is using this time to launch the Switch 2, as there's no reason to halt momentum unless it's for a major event. This next one up is very interesting because I would have never thought about it at all. So shout outs to Andres Restart and of course ThunderStash for putting this one together. But the Lego Mario Kart is releasing May 15th. But here's the kicker. LEGO almost always launches their big collaborative sets, be it with Nintendo or any other collaboration, at the beginning of the month and on the weekend. Yet this one is dropping midweek on Thursday, May 15th. According to Andres Restart's research, which was excellent work by the way, this breaks LEGO's usual pattern. When LEGO deviates from a pattern, it's usually for a strategic reason. Next up here is, some have argued that Nintendo wouldn't release Lego Mario Kart on the same day as Switch 2 because it would kill people's wallets. But let's be real, Nintendo knows it'll sell out regardless. The key here is that May 15th is an exclusive launch through Lego.com. Retailers like Amazon and Target won't have it until July 1st. Why fragment the release date for a Lego product unless it's tied to a major event? It's all part of the strategy, and I don't really think Nintendo cares about killing the wallets. It's a Lego set, and people definitely have money to spend when it comes to this type of stuff. Summer coming up, so that's not really anything, in my opinion at least. Next up here, Nintendo San Francisco, which we talked about recently in a video, opens on May 15th, and launching Switch 2 the same day isn't a coincidence. It's strategic in my opinion. People underestimate how much strategy goes into picking a grand opening date. Aligning Nintendo's first West Coast store with its biggest product launch in years guarantees headlines, maximizes hype, and drives foot traffic. A soft, unadvertised opening 1 to 2 weeks before to ensure the staff is set up for success seems likely, making May 15th even look more locked in. Before we move on to the next thing, I'd appreciate it for those who aren't subscribed, if you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and click that notification bell to get my videos as soon as they drop. Next point coming up, massive Switch 2 shipments have been spotted. A recent report from Necrofelipe, based on data surveyed by FamiBoard's user LIC, reveals that in January 2025, Nintendo's contracted assembly plant in Vietnam, HVBG, Hosiden Corporation, exported around 383,000 complete Nintendo Switch 2 units exclusively to North America, being US and Canada. This confirms that mass production is well underway, adding even more weight to the growing evidence for a May 15th launch. And remember, this is just one of Nintendo's manufacturing plants. They have multiple facilities, as Furukawa has already stated, meaning the actual number of completed units could be significantly higher. You don't ship out nearly 400,000 units just to let them sit in a warehouse. That costs Nintendo money and increases the risk of leaks, also theft as well. When it comes to logistics and supply chain management, Nintendo is an absolute boss. These units are moving fast for a reason. And this reason is awesome too, because the Donkey Kong Country attraction opens at Super Nintendo World on Thursday, May 22nd. But if the Nintendo Switch 2 was launching then, the last place Nintendo would want fans to be is waiting in line for a console instead of enjoying the park. A May 15th launch lets Nintendo own the headlines for 2 straight weeks. Also gives them time to play their Nintendo Switch 2, then head over to the park as well. Now, strategic timing for maximum impact. A May 15 launch is far more effective than releasing during Memorial Day weekend when many are traveling. Nintendo wants the Switch 2 in players' hands as school lets out for summer, which I do want to say on a side note, Kit and Krista podcast, they did also talk about that with the former marketing executive with Nintendo saying he thinks it's going to be around June or so, or when kids are getting out for summer. So that does kind of line up there as well. Continuing on here, ensuring it's taken on flights, road trips, and vacations. This fuels organic word-of-mouth marketing as Nintendo's biggest fans, day one adopters, show off their new console in public, essentially selling the Nintendo Switch 2 for Nintendo free of charge, which definitely happened when the Nintendo Switch 1 launched back in March of 2017. ThunderStash also adds in here, have you noticed that May's game release calendar is suspiciously light? Big games tend to avoid launching near a major console release. Right now, May is looking like a ghost town. Maybe that's because the Nintendo Switch 2's launch lineup is missing. Shoutouts to ThunderStash. This was a very well put together post, and once again, I will have a link for you guys in the description. I do want to give just a general thought on this as well before I move on to the next thing, which kind of goes hand in hand with some of the pricing and what we've heard so far, some other analyst type of talk. But yeah, all of this kind of lines up that May is absolutely something they could do based off of all this information here. This isn't insider data, or this isn't insider information, or trust me bro, or something like that, or sources trust me, whatever the case is, right? It's actual stuff that they've put together from the community, looking at the logs, looking at the information that's been revealed, and kind of piecing things together like a puzzle. So I do like that. I do think that it's a pretty short time from when they first, let's just say, detail everything in pre-orders to launch. That's not going to give a ton of time for logistics, but it seems that the logistics is already happening now at this point. The shipment of the units, all that stuff is happening now. Stockpile it, get it ready, get things going. So when you're ready to go, if it is going to be May, after the April Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, April 2nd, and you get pre-orders going, have everything pretty much locked up, ready to go. But the shipping, when it comes to the manufacturing plant in Vietnam, that is probably the biggest piece of evidence. If they can confirm with that, which it does seem like that is happening, or it did happen, you're not going to have just Nintendo Switch 2 systems just sitting in the retailers for 3 months or something like that. So it definitely lends to believe that this launch is going to be May sometime, or very early June. Very, very early June, maybe like May heading into June. So I do feel that it's going to be coming sooner than maybe some would have thought. Now, some have predicted a June, July, or maybe even later release, but it definitely seems like everything is gearing up for this to be first half of 2025, which I did feel it was probably going to be June or first half. But with this new information here, May 15th seems like it could be the day. You have that Nintendo Switch store opening up in San Francisco. You're going to have everything all lined up there with the toys as well with Lego. It seems like everything is setting up for that May 15th launch, and I have to agree with ThunderStash. You shouldn't really wait too long after building up that hype. You want to get people hyped up for the show when it comes to the direct. You want to get people instantly ready to pre-order, then saying, I want the system now, I want the games now, and give me it now. At this point, Nintendo in the past, and also other console manufacturers, have waited way too long sometimes, especially with the Wii U and even with the Nintendo 3DS. They'll wait a year plus from when they first show it to when it releases. That dwindles things down, that does dwindle hype, and I completely get what he's trying to say. Nintendo completely threw up what they did before with the Nintendo Switch 1 back in 2016/2017 and had an incredibly short time from when they first announced in terms of fully revealed the system to the big presentation to the launch of it, and some felt that wouldn't work, but it ended up being better than Nintendo could have even expected. So maybe they even take it a step further here, and I do think that if they did, it wouldn't be a bad bet, especially if you're launching with a brand new Mario Kart, which is definitely going to be one of the hottest games and probably one of the best sellers for the entire duration of the Nintendo Switch 2. Now let's go ahead and jump into another topic here, because it kind of goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about here with ThunderStash and what he had to say and the Nintendo Switch 2 launch date, because some Bloomberg analysts are predicting the Nintendo Switch 2 price to be $400 with a June 2025 release. Now, according to these Bloomberg analysts, they expect the Nintendo Switch 2 will be more expensive than its predecessor by $100 at launch and by $50 over the Nintendo Switch OLED version, with it potentially being $400 or more. In fact, Tokyo Securities analyst Hideki Yatsuda says that, quote, I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo goes ahead with $499, though that depends on factors such as the US tariffs and its trade war with various countries, as well as the hardware costs. The analysts are divided in that regard. I do want to add a little bit of that before I get into the next thing here. Furukawa has already stated himself that, hey, look, they know that they have to have something affordable. There is no realm in the gaming space of where $500 is affordable. And if you're talking about Nintendo systems, $500 wouldn't even be seen as affordable to them in any way, shape, or form. So I don't think it will go that high based off of what Mr. Furukawa had to say about affordability, because that would not be affordability when it comes to what Nintendo's done. The highest Nintendo's ever went for any system when it comes to the base release of a console is $350. They did that with the Wii U and quickly pivoted to $299 overall, and then they did that with the Nintendo Switch with $300, then went up with a remodel, then also went down with a Switch Lite. So I'd expect them to stay somewhat in that range, and then in the future there's probably going to be a Nintendo Switch 2 OLED or Nintendo Switch 2 Pro or OLED Pro or something, and that will probably be $500 or get up there higher in price as they beef up the hardware, get a better display, add in other features or other things, maybe have better DLSS, whatever the case is. But I don't expect them to drop a $500 system right now at this point and then probably have a revision that's what, $600, $550? I don't think so. So I can understand why the analysts were divided on that one. Now, this is not concerning to Nintendo though, as the analyst expects the Nintendo Switch 2 to release relatively soon, as in they think June. As for games, Tokyo-based insider watcher Serkan Toto expects, quote, a great lineup of software in year one, from a new Mario Kart and 3D Mario after 8 years to Pokemon Legends ZA and Metroid Prime 4. There will also be third-party support from day one, most probably including blockbusters like Call of Duty, so there should be lots of games on the way. I have to agree with that assessment as well. Nintendo knows that they need a robust lineup of first-party games. That's what drove the Nintendo Switch 1 to success, as third-party developers were not on board at the beginning. Although, once again, like he says here, I do think that more third-party developers should be available to put games on the Nintendo Switch 2, as they have seen that the Nintendo Switch is a proven great concept that can sell, and Nintendo will have those big first-party games like Mario Kart, for example, to drive the install base. And of course, once again, Nintendo Switch is a brand that people do really like. So yes, I expect that. And of course, Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends ZA, at this point, since those do not have release dates, I'm fully expecting those to be enhanced for the Nintendo Switch 2 in some way, shape, or form, with many gamers opting to maybe play it on there. So that's going to be a big boost, along with other titles that we don't know about at this point from Nintendo. Plus, you have other third-party games that have kind of leaked, stuff like Tekken, potentially even Rockstar support with Red Dead Redemption 2 or more. We also have other games like Split Fiction from Hazelight, Josef Fares. So there's definitely going to be quite a number of games that should be available to play on the system this year, third-party and, of course, first-party wise. Now, the analysts do agree that despite the high price, or more like potential high price, the console will still get off to a great start. Acquire Capital analyst Hiroyoshi Yamashina expects sales of 20 million units during its first year of availability, for example. Meanwhile, Robin Zhu of Sanford C. Bernstein expects that Nintendo will have 6 million to 8 million Nintendo Switch 2 units available at launch. If so, that would make it the biggest console launch ever. And I think that if you're looking at it, yeah, they're going to have millions upon millions ready, because the Nintendo Switch 1 is one of the best-selling, most popular systems of all time. And to be honest, if you're looking at it, relatively, when it comes to modern systems, it absolutely is that. There's only 2 other systems to ever sell 150 million units plus when it comes to dedicated devices, and that's the Nintendo DS, which was back in 2012, so over a decade ago, and the PlayStation 2, which released in the year 2000. So there hasn't been anything anywhere near close the popularity and sales of the Nintendo Switch 2 in the modern era, HD era, and up. With the Nintendo Switch 1, they didn't exactly know how well the concept would take off, and it blew up. But now with the Nintendo Switch 2, they know that they're going to have a lot more units ready to go at launch, so they can satisfy the big lineup of games that they're going to have. But what do you guys think overall, with all the different topics here with the Nintendo Switch 2 and what's going on, the release date speculation to the launch when it comes to price and everything? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.